Hello and welcome to Great Reboot, the show where we make fun of TV's dark side. And it's never been darker than right now in this episode of Wynonna Earp Season 1, Walking After Midnight. Did you guys know that midnight? Time when it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think scientifically the night is darkest at 2 a.m. That is a fact that someone will check me on and I will be wrong.
Can't wait.
This is going to be like my upper lyrics from the last episode, isn't it?
See, the thing with a podcast like this is we just say stuff, so it's poorly researched and often wrong. Like when I said that Dokken was the first music video shown on Headbangers Ball when really it was the second. And I have still not recovered from that backlash.
Yeah, there were angry mobs online for days. Your account was actually banned from Twitter. It was a nightmare.
Yes, Lemmy from Motorhead's estate, because he sadly passed, actually revoked my rights for listening to any and all metal music. So I'm just floating in darkness now. But this episode of Wynonna Earp. Oh, well, holy shit, we didn't introduce ourselves. I'm Hunter Markham.
I'm Sarah Dunaway.
And I'm Kevin James, who did a great job introducing you two.
Holy shit, you probably did. And I just started talking.
No, I don't think he
That
did.
was a joke about how I didn't introduce you.
You instantly, this is where my confidence is as a human being who can listen to words. Kevin, all you have to do is gently suggest you might not have heard me introduce you, and I just assume, yeah, I'm wrong.
Yeah, that wasn't a gentle suggestion. That was me pretending like I had done things right.
Hey, so I think we dug this episode, or at least that was the sense I got from you, Kevin. Sarah, you may be the outlier this time.
Oh no, I liked this one. I feel like I'm hoping this is the upswing because I continue to hear such great things about this show, and I stumbled upon a Twitter thread the other day where people were just very adamantly saying it was better than Buffy, which I
Is
took
insane.
great offense to.
You should all die.
But I also was like, but I've only seen a few episodes, so I'm going to withhold, my judgment, even though obviously they're wrong.
See, I don't have that context. The previous 6 episodes of this show, I would say if I was giving them a grade in a class, would be somewhere between a C and a B.
Yeah, that sounds right. There hasn't been an outright bad episode necessarily. There was one we were all pretty down on that we all personally disliked, but it wasn't awful in the same way as a Riverdale. It was more just this didn't do anything with the elements we're most excited about.
Yes. I think this one did a lot better with that. And I did accidentally stumble across a spoiler online this week, speaking of online communities around Wynonna Earp. I don't know how much you guys know. I don't know if I should reveal it and we should all be on the same page.
Give us a general hint in the direction it's going.
It's about dolls and our debate last week about why his eyes turned into the eyes of Sauron.
I actually also know this spoiler. Sarah, would you like to be the only one in the dark?
No. Please tell me the spoiler.
I just went to the Wikipedia page for Wynonna Earp for some reason or another. I think I was just looking at cast names so I could know who the actors were, and it just listed cast members, and it said, dolls, a combustible lizard man.
Oh.
As opposed to those non-combustible lizard men that are sadly all too common.
So he is a lizard human. And
a sexy lizard human who sweats.
Canadian.
But here's the thing. This is what Kevin and I were talking about. He sweats. Reptiles don't sweat. He seems warm-blooded. Otherwise, I don't think he would do well in the near tundra that is Alberta, Canada. So I'm really confused about reptile-human hybrid biology and what he has from which species.
Obviously, he's taking all the sexiest parts from each species. He's got the pecs and sweat glands of a human and the bloody eye squirts of a Komodo dragon.
Yes, he can detach his tail to distract his foes.
Looks great lying on a rock.
I would have loved if they really set this up where he was just like basking in the sun for long periods of time, and Wynonna was very curious about this.
Yeah, like he was always just like, I'm meditating, you know, but it never quite made sense. I would love that.
Yeah, they haven't done the best job setting this up. It just kind of came from nowhere.
Have you seen the conspiracy videos where it's like, this is proof that Hillary Clinton is a reptile?
Are you asking if my mother texts? The answer is yes.
Where it's just really bad editing or Photoshop and it just shows like a lizard tongue flicking out of Obama's mouth to lick his eyeball. This is just a thing. The president just walks around with a forked tongue licking his own eyes. And this one person with a Facebook account with 73 followers is the one man who knows the truth.
Look, if they say it on YouTube, it has to be true. That's the rule.
So we could have gone there. I hope there's a lot more lizard people. And, oh man, episode, actually. This episode starts with Spooky Scary Dream and Doc Holliday rolling around and muttering in his sleep.
Yeah, I was actually wondering if this was like a Halloween episode originally.
Oh, maybe.
It just kind of had those elements to it, you know, of like, ooh, this is the spooky one. And Sarah and I had just come off watching like a children's TV show, Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of their Halloween episodes. And I was like, I don't know if you noticed, that was a Halloween episode. And Sarah said, yes, that makes sense. It was pretty obvious.
But with this one, I'm like, it's a horror TV show. I don't really know.
I think when I was trying to find out air dates earlier, this is another thing I'm going to get wrong. This episode aired in May 2016.
Ooh, classic Memorial Day episode.
Yeah, it's one of those Memorial Day episodes where there's a snowy landscape and Doc Holliday wakes up beside a campfire to have a skinhead biker dude holding a knife to his throat. And this was the guy from way back in episode 1 who Wynonna exploded through use of a Harley Davidson rigged with C4.
Mm-hmm.
And he shows up, threatens Doc Holliday, Wynonna pops from behind a tree and kills him. I just felt like there was more of a story here of like, how do Revenants go from I was blown to bits to now I'm back?
Yeah, no idea. Although it does confirm that her sending them to hell is apparently temporary.
And I think it's confirming that they do have to be killed by the bullet to the head from the,
Yeah.
If you just blow them up with a motorcycle, I guess that's just like a temporary
that's right.
thing.
He was motorcycle.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So, did he just have to travel through the different, like, 7 levels of hell to get back to Earth? And he had this insane odyssey of surviving tortures and literally escaping the clutches of Satan himself. And then he popped back into being in Canada. And 5 minutes later, he's staring down the barrel of Wynonna's gun. There's a whole backstory for that guy, but he's dead in the first few seconds of this episode, and there's no other Revenants killed, and this is probably the best episode of the show so far.
Yep.
It's like I always say about like action horror shows. The lower the body count, the better it is.
Mm-hmm. It's really honestly true. And then Doc is really weird to Wynonna. I was definitely like trying to look back in my mind, be like, are they kind of fighting right now? I guess. Maybe. It's hard to say. She asks him for help and he's like, no. It's very dramatic, I guess.
Wasn't he playing this card of, what do I get out of it? And was that supposed to be him being butthurt because she's like, don't really want to sleep with you anymore?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
I think the Doc Holliday character is just like so underwhelming that it's hard to care about his motivations.
Yes, that's really the problem. Is that I can't track it because it's so underwhelming.
I mean, he was better in this episode, but still, I wasn't like...
Was he?
I'm trying to be nice here. Okay, there were a lot of times in early episodes where I was physically uncomfortable when he was on screen because it was just felt so out of place and so obnoxious. And in this episode, although he didn't stand out or do anything interesting, there weren't any times where I was just like, get this son of a bitch off the screen right now.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
That's a damning with faint praise.
Your presence has been tolerated.
That's really as far as I can go with him. As we discussed last episode, they really blitzed through killing the 7 big-time badass Revenants quickly, and we're on the last one.
Yeah, and do we know who that is? There was like some talk about it, but Doc Holliday was just like unhelpful about it.
He has a spade on his cane. That's what we know.
Yeah.
Yes, that's all the setup we get, where basically they do the physical version of enhanced photograph, where they take a magnifying glass to this old-time, like, grainy, the daguerreotype photo that was, like, made on saltpeter or whatever they made those pictures out of, and they just hold it up and say, oh, yeah, this picture taken from 30 feet away 200 years ago. Look, there's an insignia of a spade from a playing card on the head of his cane. That would have been, like, half of a pixel. It would have just been a blur.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. Also, like, if it was that obvious, they would have seen it before. You know, they've been searching this picture, they've been looking at this picture so much. It wasn't that small. It was all very confusing.
But they had to set up that there's the last bad guy has a real yen for playing card spades, which comes back in spades.
Oh, God.
And then Dolls cheerfully offers to order Chinese food. It's maybe the happiest he's been in the show so far, and he remembers Wynonna's order, which I think is very touching.
I think, is this intercut with the weird magic torture scene?
Yes, this is the part I was eager to talk about, because I was lost.
I love this so much.
Yeah, this was really confusing. I really enjoyed the blacksmith character and was like, wow, that ended quickly.
Yes. She dies shortly after this torture scene.
And it felt like we could have had so much more to do with her.
I'm a little mad we kept Doc Holliday over the blacksmith.
Yeah.
Yes. What an inauspicious end with no emotional impact, because we knew nothing about this blacksmith lady other than she's a blacksmith and she knows magic. And then there's this reveal, so the Stone Witch comes to visit her and is like, you have breast cancer, which seemed like a way bigger deal, but it's just in this throwaway line where she's like, I can get rid of your cancer. Which doesn't end
by
up
killing you.
Yeah, it doesn't end up paying off at all, but like, what like, we really learned so much about this character, but there was no value placed on it. And my favorite part of this entire scene is the Stone Witch comes in and the blacksmith is sitting in a rocking chair behind a magical barricade of salt so she can't be physically attacked by the witch. The witch has 2 henchmen with her with gold chains, neither of which say a word. They just kind of stand around, and as we intercut, at one point the Stone Witch says, well, you've withstood this magical torture and battle for hours, the blacksmith. And I just imagine what these 2 guys who look like regular tough dudes were doing this whole time.
Probably just like humming 2 Chainz rap songs to themselves, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Or else they were like you. They were like, what is happening right now? Because these 2 women are just like making each other bleed from the eyes.
The thing that really confused me about the torture scene is, okay, so Salt Circle, pretty classic, like, magic protection device. It keeps the Stone Witch out, but apparently it doesn't keep her magic out, which is the one thing you really want to keep away from.
Right, like, you're not like, oh, I'm afraid a witch is gonna punch me in the face. Like, you're afraid of the magic.
True.
So I was just very unclear, like, it kind of, the horror of the Stone Witch eventually getting the blacksmith to cross through the salt circle to exit it so that now I can touch you. It's like, but you were already hurting her like the most significant way you could. How is this scarier?
That's a really good point, because the Stone Witch isn't physically imposing. She's like a 5'5", 40-year-old little blonde lady. The fact that she can just like clench her fingers and make you bleed from the eyes, that seems like the scary thing you want to protect yourself from. Was anyone else thrown by the line when the Stone Witch enters and says to the blacksmith, I can make this worth your while if you tell me where that skull is. I can make you young again. And I looked at the blacksmith and I was like, she's like 36 tops. She's not old.
Yeah, she's
exactly over the hill for Hollywood. 6 years too old.
She's like very young and beautiful.
Yeah, she's like a super pretty lady. So whenever that line was there, I was like, what? Like, she's young. She's already young.
I'm gonna turn you into a baby.
It'd be funny if the Stone just keeps offering that to everyone, like goes up to Waverly, like, I can make you young again. I'm canonically 18 in this show.
But this is all a bid for the Stone Witch to find out where the skull of her son, one of her sons is, which we know Waverly has. So there's this weird magic bout where two tough guys just stand in the background doing thumb wars, I guess, for literally hours in the context of the show, as is stated. And just say, hey, we get this piece of information, now we're going to go kill Waverly, which is one of our plots. We have a lot of plots in this episode.
As always, yes. Although they work together much better than in previous episodes.
Yes. I think the other plot is Dolls never comes home with the Chinese food.
He never does.
He's in that warehouse talking to his boss, I guess, for days.
Yeah, that was the worst part of this episode to me.
I couldn't focus on that, but luckily it was a very small part of the episode.
They're also really specific with mentioning time in this episode, because there's a line after the Black Badge people have dragged Dolls away to be like, you haven't given us results. What is it? You're off the case. Later on, they say, you waited around for 8 hours here in this warehouse, Dolls. So, literally, they're taking breaks in berating him and telling him they're going to reassign him. And he's just like, I'll stick around for more negative feedback.
Yeah, I also just, they're leaving him all alone in this warehouse that clearly has Black Badge protected stuff in it. That just seems like a bad idea.
You know, lizard people are very trustworthy.
I guess so.
That's why they run all the government institutions.
Yeah.
Does make sense, yeah. Okay, so then we have the engagement party.
This was the best part of the episode.
Absolutely.
Just Waverly throwing the saddest engagement party known to man with 2 balloons and the limpest streamer she could find from Party City for 2 other women to attend, and that's it.
She did a good job with the paper lanterns, I thought. There was some thought that went into it. But yeah, so she's setting up this engagement party. Doc comes over to apologize to Wynonna and tells her to hide the skull, which she sees. And he's like, the witch is going to be looking for that. Hide it.
To be clear, I am not criticizing Waverly's decorating skills. She's a part-time bartender. She did what she could with the funds she had.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just think it's a great character building thing. It's this is what I can do, and then her snobby bitch friend comes over and says, planning on a budget.
Yeah, her friends, at least the one of them, is a complete douchebag.
Oh, yeah. Awful woman. Her fiance is probably terrible, too. I hate both of them already.
Terrible couple. I would want to really take time to notice what the camera operator wanted us to notice, which is the montage of Waverly decorating the place where they have her dressed in skin-tight lycra and literally wiggling her ass in front of the camera for longer than was warranted.
Listen, she looks great though.
She does, but I don't need to be told that.
And I really like I think it's a quality, tasteful, like clubbing party outfit too, because it has a little more coverage on top, which makes the really tight mini skirt look a little more tasteful. I thought it was a lovely ensemble.
You know, it'd be a more lovely ensemble if Nicole Hott and Waverly had actually gotten together this episode instead of spending her whole night with Wynonna. How long are they dragging this out? Am I being forced to wait until the end of the season for them to get together?
I'm starting to get worried we are, although I really liked at the end of this episode there was some very clear sexual tension, long lingering looks between them, which I very much appreciated.
I kind of liked how this played out, where it ends up with, since Dolls just disappears and pretty much calls Wynonna and says, you don't need me anyway, you can do this on your own, which I don't know if it was on air last week or after we wrapped up the podcast, we were talking about how Dolls doesn't really contribute anything to this show. It should be just about Wynonna kicking ass. She's the one with the peacemaker, and she's the one whose sister does all the research. He's fucking useless. So he's right, and he listened to us. But because Wynonna is left to her own devices, she and Officer Hot start hanging out, and they become like pals. So it was cool to set that up and see, hey, Wynonna used to talk about how shitty Champ was all the time, but on the flip side, the person Waverly should be with is super cool and gets along with Waverly's family, which is important.
Yes, and I liked Wynonna and Officer Hot way better than I like her and Dolls already. It's like a way better investigative partner. They went down to the morgue together. I'm into it. Replace him, honestly. I'm done.
Poor Dolls.
He could disappear from this show. It's not anything to do with the actor.
No.
It's the character being just a guy who walks around and says, Wynonna, you're doing this all bad and wrong, and do it by the book.
Yeah, he's basically like the police commissioner in like a loose cannon cop movie. But like those guys are literally just there for like, you're off the force. You're back on the force. And that's all of their scenes. Whereas Dolls is around constantly.
You caused $10,000 in city damages, and you killed 6 innocent civilians, and you broke every constitutional law there is. But god damn it, I can't fire you. Not when you're that good.
Plus, it was only 10,000 Canadian dollars.
That sounds like our police commissioner, to be honest. So.
Who is also our mayor.
Who is also our mayor. More tear gas, yes! Try them, my pretties.
Portland, having a good time right now.
Yeah, I'm a little worried that, like, by the time this episode comes out, there'll also be protests by then.
Yeah, this is being recorded August 2nd, 2020, for context.
As of today, we're on our 67th straight day of protests, so by the time this comes out, we'll be on, like, our 112th straight day of protests.
For all the people listening in 2300 in space, when this podcast is super popular, this is your context. This is all people will listen to on Mars. They will have lost all visual media, and they will just listen to podcasts of people talking about film.
Oh.
This is the dream I have. Where the hell was I? Oh, yeah, we can really dive in on Waverly's friends, because, Sarah, if you had friends like this...
Hold on, you lost me at if you had friends. Hunter, please explain what friend having is like.
It's like someone you talk to even when you're not recording a podcast.
Oh, so like a dog that you own.
Yeah.
Yes, pretty much. Speaking of dogs, Stephanie is her name, which is pretty much shorthand for evil, bitchy white girl in any media ever.
Yes, I did have a friend like this in elementary school.
And her engagement party sucked. Let me tell you, the whole second grade class was not happy about that.
No, I mean, she was a very wealthy girl and one of those pretty manipulative people who was able to like pull people in And yeah, I learned a lot and was able to avoid that type of girl and woman from then on. So she taught me a lot of lessons. Thank you, Laura.
Wherever you are, rest in peace, force them out. And Stephanie, like, do girls talk like this, or they just walk in and are like, you shouldn't have dumped Champ, he really liked you, he was the best you could have ever done, your decorating's cheap, and this is a creepy murder house?
Not anyone I hang out with.
They do in like really on the nose media that doesn't know how subtle characterization works.
Yeah, girls are usually, like, women are a lot better at the subtle approach of cutting you down in a way that, you know, you don't even realize it's happening at first.
Yes. Where they could have been like, oh, you and Champ split up, so I guess you're finally going through your rebellious, impulsive phase, Waverly. And there's sort of like that thing of like, did you just cast some shade on me?
Mm-hmm.
So they could have done that, but they just went for Stephanie is A, a bitch, B, also a hoe, because she's Doc Holliday, who was hanging out in the barn, doing what one does in a barn, getting wood. He was carrying firewood, but...
I feel like you're telling on yourself a little bit now, Hunter.
I have 2 barns. I spent a lot of time in barns. But this is another thing. I think on this podcast, I have more than once espoused my appreciation for the beauty of male actors. Let's reflect on Mad Dog.
I'm ready for you to like really bring the hammer in discussing Doc Holliday.
Oh, this is all I could think during this scene. You can go ahead, Hunter, though.
No, I mean, this is definitely directed at you, Sarah, because I looked at Doc Holliday, and there was never any amount of confusion about my sexuality or any sort of feelings, because this is a man who just has a gross mustache over his lip. He is dressed in kind of ill-fitting clothes. He's always toting a knife and a gun like some kind of backwoods hillbilly. Is there a sex appeal here that I am missing?
If there is, I am also missing it. That was my reaction too. Like, they are just wildly overestimating the hotness of this actor. Because he walks in and everyone's like, "Oh, sexy, weird cowboy dude. Let's invite him in and let him be part of the party because he's so hot." And I was just like,
their first assumption
what?
is he is a stripper because he's so hot, which, like, interesting assumption.
There is a strange, unshaven, poorly dressed man with a gun wandering around outside your house, Waverly. Let's bring him in here.
Yeah, no, he looks like the guy that, I mean, if Waverly were to actually be dating him, they would be making fun of her for it. That would be my, that's what should be happening.
Yes. He looks somewhere between Joe Dirt and the guy from Kill Bill, who was like the creepy dude who tried to have sex with comatose people in the first movie and then gets killed. If you've seen that film.
Hunter, I've lived that film.
You've also woken up from a coma, killed a man, dragged yourself out to a car, and then gone on a killing spree. It's how we met.
Yes.
I was the one Yakuza you spared.
Yeah, it's also funny because, like, in this episode, we actually do get, like, a pretty solid male character, at least I thought, in the form of the coroner.
Oh my god, this guy was dope!
Yeah, I really appreciate, like, he brought something so different to the table from all our other male characters this episode. He was kind of funny and interesting.
Yeah, I could use a lot more coroner.
I don't know this character's name, but he was super chill because Wynonna and Officer Hot are hanging out and getting drunk, and then they're looking at pictures of recently deceased people from open cases, and then Wynonna gets a top 10 anime nosebleed. Which, you know what that means. If you get a nosebleed, it means one
She's
thing.
going to the barn.
And she got that from looking at a photo of a hacked up corpse. So, subtext for what Wynonna's into. They go down to the morgue, and there's this super chill dude who's eating Twizzlers and being like, I didn't do this coroner report, or else I wouldn't have misspelled breasts. Breast is a weird word, and I always want to say it like a guy who lives in a basement and only eats Subway sandwiches, but like 7 a day.
So like
That
as
is oddly
yourself.
specific.
Oh, she has some nice breasts. That's how that word should be pronounced.
I love the idea that 7 Subway sandwiches just produces this weird like throat wobble. Like there's just blubber that has to form exactly when you say the B of breasts and at no other time.
Oh, was it Kevin's? I'm going to go on record with something else I'm wrong about. Die Hard, the one with Justin Long in it. Which one was
Die
that?
Hard with a Vengeance. I don't know.
Live
Free or Die Hard.
Live Free or Die Hard. I think there was a part where they go to some dude's basement and it's like Kevin Smith or someone who's pretty much Kevin Smith. And I just imagine it's that guy. Anyway, we've gone way off topic here.
Yeah, back to the filmography of Kevin Smith. But yes, I did like the coroner. He even like accidentally sneaks up on them. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I always forget I'm wearing like cotton little booties to like wander around my morgue in.
I think I had my first legit laugh out loud when the show wanted me to laugh out loud moment here.
Which one was that?
Whenever the guy does show up and he's just like, hey guys, what are you doing in the morgue? And Wynonna freaks out and she's like, why the fuck are you sneaking up on us? We're in a morgue. Wear a bell. And she did a really good job with the comedic delivery. And it was actually like the show legitimately making me laugh when it was trying to, which they're getting better at this.
They are. They're getting better at it.
Wynonna gets better the more they let Scrofano.
Yes.
I forget her first name because
Melanie.
I'm terrible.
Melanie
Scrofano. The more they let her go off.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hunter, you showed me a clip of her from the Letterkenny. Is that it?
Yes. Yeah, the show from where I know her from.
Where she's just like insulting a man like so harshly, like your wife is dead because she hates you, and it works and it's hilarious. And it shouldn't, but she pulls it off.
Ooh, I want more of that energy on this show.
Yeah, on that show, she's like this perpetually hammered half of a like swinger couple, completely off the wall. She's a really good comedic actress, and when they let her do that stuff on Wynonna Earp, she plays it really well. So, I mean, it was honestly one of the reasons I was really stoked about this show because I already knew her from Letterkenny and liked her.
I think this kind of gets to like what one of the problem with the shows that we hadn't quite put our finger on before is, though, like they say that Wynonna is the town pariah who's done all this awful stuff, but they write her to be kind of more like the fun party girl who's made some mistakes. She could use a lot more of the kind of energy that really would alienate people to be a more interesting character.
Like, you want her to be more of a dick and more antisocial, or...
I think we just need to see more like the kind of thing that has the whole town hating her. Right now, it's just like, yeah, I can see how that's annoying. I can see why some people don't like her, but town pariah is a bit much for the type of behavior we've seen from her.
I just want them to drop the town pariah thing and have it be like, some people don't like her. Everyone else does because she's fun.
That's what I'm saying. That's how she comes across.
Yeah.
It's a really weird thing where they hardly reference actual events that made her this so-called pariah, besides, oh, she slept with 1 or 2 people. And at this point, she just walks around and says, like, I'm supposed to be the town pariah who's not invited anywhere on a Saturday night. Not you, Officer Hot, but there aren't a lot of examples of her doing anything or people ostracizing her because she's consistently surrounded by people who care about her.
Right, and I mean, and it would even make sense if it was like because she's an Earp, which they sort of imply, but then they don't shut out Waverly, and we don't see anything like in Practical Magic where it's like clearly she's being shunned. Yes. So it's confusing.
They had some reference to that. I just remembered because you brought up Waverly. Whenever her friends are at the engagement party berating her for leaving Champ, because they're Champ monks as well. They say something like, oh, like, that's the best you could have done considering you're an Earp. And I was just like, have you seen Waverly? Like,
right.
9 guys out of 10 would feed their grandmother to the wolves for a crack at her. I don't think it would matter what her last name was. So,
Nope.
I mean, do they not know how men work?
Notoriously discerning about the women they date. You know.
Oh, she has poor social standing.
Oh, Earp blood.
She doesn't have a country estate, just a mere hovel.
I'd hardly be able to present her in the winter salon.
So, they have this mythology of them being an outcast family, but it doesn't seem well earned, especially since we've also seen most guys and women sniffing around Waverly and not being like, oh, but she's an Earp and I shouldn't. People would talk.
Well, yeah, and then there are a bunch of tourists in town that come because they're Earpers, because they are really into Wyatt Earp and the mythology of it. So it seems like it could also make them more popular. Honestly, like it's not really well explained why there is this taint upon the Earp name.
Yeah, I mean, I like more taint discussion whenever I can get it.
Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Wyatt Earp's super famous Old West lawman, and anyone who's into that kind of culture or probably some sort of biker dude or anything of that ilk would think it was super cool that she was an Earp, or that both of these really attractive young women were Earps. And from what we've heard about Wynonna, she never had a problem finding a man. So it's a little odd, but...
Yeah, and frankly, the choices of who she slept with in high school seem like very poor reason to ostracize her, especially in a small town where everyone ends up sleeping with everybody. You know, it's just... I mean, by this point, it would be like, water under the bridge.
Yeah.
We've all hit that. It's fine.
Yes. This episode, for all the fun stuff, had some weird pacing, and I did not know how it was going to be resolved. Because while Wynonna and Officer Hot are in the morgue, they're kind of finding out that this corpse was cut up and all the organs were removed and then put back into this corpse. Which is weird, but it has a bruise on the neck that's in the shape of a spade. And then they go on some little hunt because there's some sounds, and they come back and there's a spade playing card stuffed in the mouth of the corpse.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because none of this stuff really goes anywhere this episode. It is padding, but it's more interesting padding than we've been getting, so like I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I was actually excited to have things that it looked like would actually have continuity to the next episode, because now we know there's someone on the loose who's removing organs. The coroner also mentions that as the incisions were made, they were instantly cauterized, so the incisions had to be made with something really, really hot, like hellfire, Wynonna suggests. So there's, we have some setup here. That's we're finally actually getting some we have a teaser about a baddie we're going to see later.
I liked that when it paid off at the end, because they'd never done that before on this show. I was like, how are they going to wrap this up in the next 10 minutes or so? Because that's what this show does. They pleasantly surprised me.
And speaking of bad guys to be seen later, I actually did like how effective of a villain the Stone Witch wound up being in the back half of the episode. Like, she was appropriately intimidating with her henchmen and all her magic, and using the corpse of the blacksmith, and even killing one of Waverly's friends. Obviously the bad one that we all hate.
Yeah, Stephanie got her neck broken. This was super cool, because the Stone Witch went from being this weird lady who was stomping on Bobo. Can we talk about how there was zero Bobo Del Rey in this episode? And it was
honestly an improvement.
Oh yeah, way better.
Because the Stone Witch, when she starts raising zombies from the dead and sending in henchmen and doing all these things, starts to become an actual threat, where it doesn't feel like, oh, Wynonna's going to pop up and fire one shot and this is all going to be said and done.
Mm-hmm. And also, I know we've complained in the past that we don't get what Bobo's powers are, and I know we still don't really get what the Stone Witch's powers are, but I was a little more comfortable not knowing what the Stone Witch's powers are, because it's magic doing this is a much better cover than this Revenant has some super powerful, vaguely defined thing that we don't know, that no other Revenant has.
Yes. I know so far the Stone Witch has 2 powers. 1, to apply yellow eyeshadow. 2, she is clearly an elven blade because it glows blue, presumably in the presence of orcs.
God damn it, Hunter.
This is where I reveal my encyclopedic knowledge of Lord of the Rings, which I think I've already horrified you with before.
Yes, you have.
So yeah, she carries around this weird knife. She's doing rituals. The blacksmith somehow gets to the Earp farm and is dying in the barn where Doc finds her, and she's like, Doc, my final words, like, as I go, here's how you kill the Stone Witch. 12 simple steps. Step 1, check out the WikiHow on it. And takes fucking forever to die. But Doc closes her eyes, and my first thought was, I want one time in one of these episodes when someone dies and the people go to close their eyes, that the eyes of the corpse keep popping back open. That's all I want. Like an extended gag for like 45 seconds.
Yes, and then there's a zombie army essentially trying to go after Doc and Wynonna and Waverly. And Waverly's other friend, who turns out to be pretty cool.
Chrissy?
Chrissy, yeah.
But she ends up being not a bitch, unlike Stephanie, so that's why she gets to live.
We also learned that the reason that the Stone Witch's sons did not go to hell when Wyatt Earp killed them was because they weren't human.
Yeah, looking at the skull, it looked like there was a second set of teeth. Is that what you guys saw?
Yeah, like
yes,
a second row of teeth behind the first row, kind of like a shark.
Shark man.
I am unclear. Shark man.
Combustible shark man, it says on Wikipedia.
I am unclear on, like, is the Stone Witch also not human, or did she just give birth to non-humans? I'm unclear on where this is going.
Did she summon? Maybe you can blend DNA with magic. All I want now are, like, street sharks from the cartoon Street Sharks. But in live action in this show, and when they're wreaking havoc, Dolls reappears and he says, there's only one way to kill a shark. With a combustible lizard. And he takes off his sunglasses, there's lizard eyes, and we get the Who, like...
Yeah, and Waverly goes out to confront the Stone Witch and just effortlessly smashes the skull of her son, to which I was like, why did no previous skull holder decide to do that?
And also, now that it's in pieces, it can't be put back together, I guess, is the implication, but I thought they were already in pieces. I'm confused.
I guess maybe it's just like what there's a limit to how many pieces she wants to deal with. She's like, all right, 238 bones, that's reasonable. 263 pieces, forget it.
Must be, yeah.
That was my question too, because Waverly smashes the skull. She doesn't burn it or incinerate it or anything. I think you could just kind of crazy glue that back together. But, I mean, Stone Witch has a right to be angry over this, and that's why she flings Waverly into a barn wall.
Where she got some wood, am I right? Am I right? Oh, God.
I didn't really understand what happened when, what's-his-face, Doc Holliday shoots the Stone Witch as she's about to do more magic and I guess kill Waverly. But it seems like in shooting her, he also harms himself. Like there's some sort of weird magic where he's wounded in the same place that he shot her, which is like in the shoulder.
Yes, I think the implication
I missed this completely.
Yeah, the implication I think is that she's tied their fates together so that if she gets hurt, he gets hurt. Wasn't there a reference to that kind of mechanism earlier in the episode?
Maybe.
Ooh.
Like with someone else. I'm not sure. Anyway, I think that is the implication that that's why he's shot in the chest. So he didn't know that until this episode, looks like.
Yeah. Kevin, you missed that?
I completely missed this.
Wow.
Way to watch the show we're watching, Kevin.
Seriously.
God.
I'm a fake fan. Just the other day, Sarah was explaining to me that I wasn't even a real Buffy fan, and I think I've proven that.
Okay, so we were talking about like nerd quizzes, where like men will try to make you prove that you are really a fan of a show by like quizzing you on it, because apparently that's what it means to be a fan of a show. And I was like, well, what? That's so dumb anyway. Because what if you are just a new fan and you're still learning about it? Like, how does anyone become a fan? At some point, it's new to you. And then I was like, what if I said you were not the real Buffy fan because I watched it when it first came out and you didn't because you were too young?
And Kevin said, you're right. I'm not a true fan.
Yeah.
He said, hoisted by my own petard.
I mean, I proved it within seconds because then I forgot Jane Espenson's name, and I think we all know how embarrassing that is. All the listeners know who Jane Espenson is from Buffy.
That's that one book from like the 1800s. Jane Espenson.
Yep.
I don't know. Is that a character or an actress or both?
Writer.
Yeah, that's one of the beloved writers behind the scenes.
I was so off base there. Oh,
God, Hunter, you're almost as fake a fan as I am.
She has craft services. Okay, she delivered lunch for seasons 2 through 6. You fucking
Look,
idiot.
don't joke. The Buffy's craft services team is well regarded.
Oh my god. It's okay. I had no idea. Wow, the Buffy fandom is intense if they keep track of television show writers.
Well, Jane Espenson was a fan favorite writer because she wrote the funniest of the episodes. Like,
Yeah.
Buffy was kind of like a horror comedy, but the most comedic. Like, people could like, hey, these are all the same writer.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay, yeah, I could quiz people on Lord of the Rings if I really wanted to be super obnoxious.
On what page did the fox think, wow, that's weird when the hobbits are talking?
I was texting Kevin about minutia in Lord of the Rings, and I feel like this scared you more than at any other point in our multi-year friendship when I said, oh yeah, there's that really weird part in Fellowship of the Ring where it switches to the random forest fox's point of view for 2 sentences. And you said, please stop talking to me.
Yeah, it was my politest way of trying to end the friendship. It worked well.
So speaking of weird fandom moments, there was a moment in this episode that I thought was a Veronica Mars reference, but I cannot be sure. Which was Waverly is talking to her friend up in what we discover is Willa's room. And Waverly gets the skull, and it turns out she's hidden it in her air vent, which is an ongoing thing in Veronica Mars. So I thought maybe it was a shout out.
Maybe.
But like a lot of time is spent on it in a way that made me think, maybe.
Is that where her friend then... So in the middle of a crisis, this is the middle of the zombie attack, and her friend who was upstairs hiding is like, oh, Waverly, you're such a good person. I'm sorry, Stephanie is a bitch. Sure, I'm glad she got her neck snapped by a zombie henchman. Anyway, remember that one time when we were kids and this happened? I think we were in 2nd grade. No, maybe it was 3rd.
Yes. And also, so they say like a bully that was bothering them, and his name is Champ something or other. Is it the same Champ?
Oh, yeah, that's Champ.
No, there's just like 50 Champs in the town, you know?
I mean...
Champ is a common name.
It's part of the Champ lore. Come on, you're not even a true fan.
I'm not.
You don't even know where he got his GED from.
He did not get a GED.
No.
You don't even care about how many cc's his dirt bike is. Which I feel like is probably an argument he and Waverly had.
I'm looking forward to the episode that switches over to Champ's dirt bike's point of view for like 2 seconds.
Have you seen that Heat Vision and Jack show that had one episode where it was Jack Black and his best friend was Owen Wilson, who's transformed into a talking motorcycle?
No.
What?
Oh yeah, this is slightly obscure, but I just imagine a whole episode where Champ has a talking motorcycle, which he just thinks is dope, but it turns out to be a demon, and Wynonna has to explode the motorcycle. Let me write for Wynonna Earp. We're gonna have talking motorcycles.
Yeah, that... So, to finish up, Wynonna scares the Stone Witch away. She drives away in that pink Cadillac thing. And Officer Hot comes to take statements about what all happened there. And Officer Hot reveals that she knows a lot more about what's going on than Wynonna and Dolls think she does, and she wants to be let in on more. She's like, hey, I can tell there's like weird zombie magic happening. Someone please tell me why.
At one point in this episode, Wynonna asks why she's so interested in Wynonna and her sister. And we all know the answer. And can't wait for that to come to fruition. Like, yeah, it's not really about you, actually, Wynonna. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, it's not all about you. Have you seen your sister dance around the house in a skin-tight outfit? Because I sure haven't been staking her out using county property or a surveillance van or anything. There is a nice scissoring joke in here because Waverly killed one of the henchmen, the Solnich's henchmen, with scissors, and Officer Hot says the line to Wynonna, oh yeah, the statement here says that Waverly scissored a stripper.
That was good.
I think my biggest question, and this may have been Doll's only function besides getting Chinese food, how are they going to explain away the multiple deaths that happened on the Earp property without Black Badge being able to do a hand wave away and say, special
I think they're just not even going to like deal with it.
No, and I'm also, okay, the whole Black Badge thing, this was obviously the worst part of this episode. But the Black Badge head boss lady, whoever it is that's talking to Dolls, she keeps saying that he doesn't have enough proof. And I don't get what he's supposed to show her. And also, the whole existence of the Black Badge implies that they don't need proof. Like, that they already know that this stuff is out there.
Yes. This was the strange thing. I think it was a couple episodes ago where they were talking about, oh, we need to take a Revenant alive so we can show proof, which they never do. And then when he's taken a task over this, I guess my thing is they had ample opportunities to get a live Revenant. There's 77 of them running around. They could have gotten one at some point. They could have brought in the undead Doc Holliday. Who knows? But
also, why isn't Boss Lady just coming out with them? Like
we can easily
do an
just
on-site,
we can show you Boba Del Rey's trailer park full of Revenants. We know where it is. He lets us on if we have a warrant.
Oh yeah, because she's saying the whole time, like, you've got no proof there are Revenants. I don't know why she's suddenly like a newspaper man. There's no proof. These claims are scurrilous. But
which also makes it so confusing because he was sent here because like paranormal activity was increasing. Like they sent him somewhere they thought it was a hoax.
Also, they turned him into a combustible lizard man.
Yeah.
Did they turn him into that? Was that maybe just
know.
something that happened along the way?
The real Black Badge were the combustible lizard men we made along the way.
Not a choice. He just is what he is. Okay, so they could have just at any point said, we're going to get a warrant. We're going to haul Bobo in for questioning. Look, here's a Revenant. Bada bing, bada boom, proof. Okay, we'll have, like, we got one of his henchmen or whatever, and we'll have Wynonna kill him with the gun and send him to hell right in front of you. It doesn't seem like it's hard to get proof of Revenants, but then Doll says, I have even better proof of something way cooler than Revenants. And that's the end of that storyline, which I'm guessing they already know he's a lizard man, so it's not that. They've read the Wikipedia page.
Probably.
So, what is it?
It's clearly Waverly's scissoring skills. They're supernaturally good.
She stabbed a man in the ear with scissors, killed him. It was really cool. But that's sort of the false ending. The real ending makes us forget about all those questions like, how are they going to explain away all of these dead bodies? Because this is the best ending this show's ever had. Let's dive into it. Kevin, what was the song that played in the ending?
I want to say it was Ironic by Alanis Morissette.
Yes. It was some old-timey gramophone music. But the ending itself was really cool. I don't know who wants to go into a beautiful descriptive detail of how this was portrayed on screen.
All you, Sarah.
Well, Doc hears some music that sounds like gramophone or like one of those little music boxes, something of that nature. He crests a hill and he sees a police car with its doors wide open, not a person inside of it, and it is creeping along the road, playing the music.
Yeah, the car's idling along. This is the car that we had seen just 30 seconds previous Wynonna and Officer Hot getting into, because Wynonna's like, let's go get some pancakes. I'm going to tell you all the secrets. So now Wynonna and Officer Hot are both presumably kidnapped. There were blood stains on the car door, so it looks like there was a struggle. We can only assume it was weird Spade Kane guy who'd been taunting them all night in the morgue.
Mm-hmm.
Totally missed that it was the same police car. Don't know what I thought was going on. I was like, that's weird. I don't know.
It took me a second.
Like, I didn't expect them to do an episode dedicated to Stephen King's Christine this time.
It took me a second because I was like, is that what that police car looked like? And then when Doc Holliday was like, Wynonna, where are you? I don't know why he turned into Larry the Cable Guy there.
I mean, that is basically what Doc Holliday sounds like.
Yep.
You might be a Wynonna Earp if you...
If you slept with everyone in your high school, here's your sign. I think that was like a mix of Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy.
Yes. All right, I can do a better impression of Larry the Cable Guy.
Okay.
So he's going to point his gun at Revenant's head and says, "Get her dead."
Yeah, I don't care who you are. That's funny.
We've lost every subscriber.
This is now, I think, was it last episode where we were discussing Dane Cook in depth?
Yes. We clearly just want to have a podcast about bad comedians. Next episode, Carlos Mencia.
Next episode, we'll be watching Blue Collar Comedy Tour. Followed by Jeff Dunham. Let's talk about puppets.
But yeah, so that was a pretty creepy ending, and now I think we're all pretty pumped for the next episode we're going to watch, Season 1, Episode 8, Two-Faced Jack.
It was a jack that was in the guy's mouth in the morgue, so probably where we're going with that.
You could call him a jack of all spades. My goal is here to tell bad enough puns that I myself be a subject of one of our bad comedian episodes.
You're gonna get an invite to the Blue Collar Comedy Tour like that.
But yeah, like, I thought this was a really strong episode. A lot of highs and even the lows, which there were a few, just like they were a lot easier to tolerate. What would you guys rate this?
I'm gonna say this was like 3.5 out of 5 Sharkman skulls.
Hunter?
I would say that this is 4 out of 5 trips to the woodshed.
Yeah, I guess I would give it 4 out of 5 scissorings to the head. Yeah, it was
solid episode.
For you, were there any cringe lines?
I don't think there were this time.
I can't remember any.
I had a couple. I don't have them written down, so this is off the top of the dome, so I'm definitely wrong. But whenever the engagement party girls invite Doc Holliday in, they start playing poker, and Stephanie, who is about to die, you can tell because she's super slutty, is like, is this strip poker? Because it can be, and starts unbuttoning her blouse. Which, again, this character lacked all forms of subtlety. They were really bashing us over the head with, like, she is all sorts of terrible things because it's her engagement party and she's trying to bang some random cowboy dude.
Yeah, and there's even, like, a subtle line, well, not subtle, but there's, like, a throwaway line earlier that this is one of her newest engagements. Like, there have been a line of broken engagements.
I wonder why.
And also that she got the fiance got the ring back from another woman just recently.
That was the cringiest moment, I think, because it was tied to someone super having the hots for Doc Holliday.
Yes, I agree. And also, just strip poker is one of those things that I remember joking about in like middle school. But then, you know, as far as I know, is not actually a thing people play as adults.
Only in youth group.
I mean,
You didn't go.
Yeah,
to
I think
church.
that's like a thing you do, the thing you maybe do when you're like young and still figuring out your sexuality, but like once you're in college or a little older, you don't need that pretense.
Yes, I've never played strip poker in all my days of playing poker.
Me neither. Now strip backgammon. No.
Oh yeah, you know.
obviously.
Ah, fuck, I forgot my backgammon terms. I was about to really have a good joke there, but now I don't.
The audience mourns the loss of all the backgammon terminology they were about to learn.
I would have said the one backgammon term I sometimes know, and it wouldn't have made sense to anyone anyway, so probably better off that that joke was stillborn. That's all we have to say. If you play backgammon, fuck you. Thanks for listening to the show. Leave a review on Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, Spotify, anywhere else that you listen to us, and reach out to us on Twitter at GrittyRebootPod or by email at grittyrebootpodcast@gmail.com.
I saw a picture yesterday of a guy who used to play for the Boston Bruins, and it's cool, I always drew him. He wore a mask just like my heart, and it stitch marks on every part, and he wore number 30.